Welcome to working with Adobe Animate. Now, what are we going to do with Adobe Animate? Just a simple button, just to show you how it works. And there's the button by just having a rollover. And if I click on it, I'm just going to take it to my website. So it's going to a new tab, a new window from my ball, the graphic there. But essentially, all I need to do is say replace self or underscore blank, which gives it this new file, and it's very, very simple to do. So if I just close this, back to the graphic again, and there you go. Okay, so just a simple graphic, and let's have a look and see how this gets put together. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this for a minute. I've got my master animate file here, and in there, this images folder is just a simple graphic. I've got a preloader, animated GIF too. This is what Adobe makes, just using their standard one, and I'll just flip around here to show things are loading on slightly bigger files or slower connections. With a ball graphic I'm going to source again soon, and just the JavaScript file, and of course my HTML file. This is not Flash, this is HTML5, and it's also responsive. Just do a quick test on that. I'm going to take this all the way through to there and just click on it again, and then it's going to just jump through even to the blank page to my responsive web page. So let's go through and just see how that works and what makes it up, and we're going to build it from scratch to show you how simple it is to simply build this graphic. Edge Animate is not Edge Animate, it's replacing Edge Animate. It is Adobe Animate, which replaces Flash. So really worthwhile moving to this, because Edge Animate really is no longer the main program. In fact, I don't think it's really upgrading at all from where it was, because the main program to have now, of course, is Adobe Animate with all the bells and whistles in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up this file. Let's have a look at see what the version is. This is Animate. So if we just come through here, I'll go About Animate, and my current build is 15.2.0.66, 2015 second release. And I'll tell you what, I had to go with this earlier on, just giving a bit of a demonstration, trying it out, and I had to go back into Dreamweaver and do the responsive side, and quite a bit of, well, not a lot of work, but the thing is, it's actually got better. It's actually easy in this version, so it took me a little while to figure that out and realize that, oh, much easier. So I'll just click here to get rid of that and just show you how this is put together. I've got an actions layer just here, and then I've got my art layer. Could have other layers, but this is just the main timeline, the main scene, or the main stage. And I've just got this button here on the stage. So to access, and the way I'm going to really access everything is just using Control click to get my actions, but just to show that you can actually come down and in fact look through the menu. I want to do the same thing, just not using code snippets, but you can see there's some cool things here. It's going to go to actions, and you'll see the actions that are attached to the stage or the scene, the top line of the site, really, where all the actions sit for the whole site. And this is just saying just some comments here, but it's going basically this button, when you click it, go to this website, and I want it to be just a new page, being a blank page. As simple as that. And actually we don't have to worry about really writing this stuff, because it's actually written through Adobe Animate as well, basically from the code window once you select things up. Let's have a quick look and see how that goes together. Now if I just come back here, I'm going to click on this graphic here. On the left hand side it's just a bitmap graphic. On this side here it's actually a selected graphic. Actually it's a symbol. Okay, so if I'm just going to double click on this, you see that it goes into a symbol mode, or basically from the scene into the button, inside the button. If I go a little bit further, I'm going to go into the overstate and click here, and you see I've got a graphic here that if I click into that, it's gone down the timeline again, and these are all symbols, or button symbol, movie clip symbol, and it's got a timeline which basically has a few effects in here. In fact, on this keyframe where you put actions and or different effects, I've actually, if I go from my library to my properties, you see that this comes up with just a rotate ×1 counterclockwise, and I've also got some easing in. Simple things to do just to make this up, which you can do really fast. Now I've also got the library over here, which actually where all these things are stored. Obviously in a big site or a big complicated page, this is going to get filled up. I just want to show you the principles of this to get yourself going. So really sort of that's it. So let's go and build this. So I'm just going to go File, New. And what we've got here is we've got the action script 3, E for desktop, blah, 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 blah. But really what we want to concentrate on, the main things now is we have even 3D, WebGL and all sorts of things. If you want to go into that, some great stuff that's being done, but I just want to go to HTML5. I just want to work a responsive website design. So I sort of can click on that and basically I can just actually even at this stage, just go through and I think I'll just make it about 800 by about say 600 pixels, just so something fits on the screen. I want it white and I just want to use the pixel ruler. I haven't got the ruler up, but I'll just go OK and HTML5, remember, canvas, and here it is. And you can just go to the view here. Let's see, magnification or fit in window. That's really what I want. And here it is. No other graphic, nothing in the library, no properties set really, except for if I want to change them again back in properties, I can change it to different size here as well. But for the time being, that's great. No name yet either, so we probably better save this. So what I'm going to do, just for a start, is I'm just going to go File, Save, and I'm going to give it, actually I've got my ball, I might call it my ball 2, that's probably good as name as ever. Now it is a Flash document, okay, but what we're outputting to is not Flash, so don't get confused with that. And what I want to do is just create a whole new folder here, a whole new root folder, just to show how this works. So I'm going to see, just this one was called this one, I'll go this too. Okay, just going to click in there, just go this too, just for a root folder, and create. So here we are inside root 2, and I'm just going to go save. So I'm saving my document here, and obviously the new name, the old name, so you can have several documents open at any one time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here, just on my layers. I'm just going to call that, I'm going to call it art. You can have it any name you want. Just want to make things nice and simple. And with the art, I'm going to go now and I want to create a bit of a graphic. I'm just going to use the tools, great tools for creating illustration animation. There's also things like boning. You know, this is a full-on animation program, remember, and great for web as well. So that's what I mean. It's the program probably to get for web and mixed media type stuff. If that's how you work, which I know is how I work. So it's great to have something that does a lot. Okay, we're not using any 3D stuff. I'm just going to go to the circle tool here, and I've got a color here. You can click on that to make it anything. Pretty happy with that color. And what I want to do is just make a nice simple button like before. I'm going to hold Option Shift just to drag it out. Okay, there you go. Now you can actually bring up your rulers and things and grids. I'm just doing this for the sake of getting things done fairly quick. So let's see. Well, I want to just divide that in half. I'm going to go back to my pointer tool here, and it might not be that accurate, but I'm doing this pretty quickly. So I'm just making a selection, if you will. I'm just going to delete with my delete key. Okay, here's our art, here's a graphic, here's a graphic. Now what I want to do is I want to turn this side into a symbol. Now the beauty of symbols is you use symbols that can be reused and you give them instant names. And you'll see how this works for linking back to the script very shortly. But this needs to be a symbol, and if it's a symbol, it can be used as many times without incurring extra file size. So all you need to do is, with this graphic, the way I like to work is I'm just going to control click on it, and I think under modify you can go convert to symbol, blah blah blah, but I'm just going to work the way that I like working because I think it's just a bit quicker. I'm going to control click on the Mac, and I can also access my things down here. So I'm going to go convert to symbol, okay, and I'm just going to click on it like so. And we've got a choice here, movie clip symbol, button symbol, or graphic symbol. I'm going to stay with button, and I'm going to use a good naming convention for button, BTN underscore. I'm just going to call it button for the sake of this, and I just want it to be centered in here. I'm not going to worry about advanced features, just want to keep this nice and simple And for the most part, that's all you need to do, and go OK. Well, what happened here? Well, it's changed that and it's registering, and here's my underscore button. Now, you remember me just talking about before instant name? This is what we're going to need to access it with the code. So an instant name is you can reuse the symbol as much as you like, but you give it a name for that instance, okay? So that's how you reduce the file size. So with that, I'm just going to use a good old naming convention, and I'm just going to call this button 1. I'm not going to worry about other buttons, I just want to show you the principle of this. So we have our instant name, we have our symbol, which is a button. Let's go and have a look in the library here, and there is our button on the right hand side. Great. So to go inside that button, I can actually click on that, and now I'm into the buttons. Here's my rollover state. So what I want to do with this is I want to build another graphic, and I want to build it on the overstate. Now there's many ways you can do this. I'm just going to run down through this way, just because well, for me, I think this works easier for me, and I'm just showing you this example anyway. What I want to do is I want to create another keyframe. So you need to come over here, and I can just control click, and I'll just go insert keyframe. Not frame, which will just give it a blank frame, but insert keyframe. Okay, so it's just another instance of this file here. Okay, so what we do is we have our upstate here and our overstate. And I'm going to give this, I think let's give it a base name, base BTN I suppose. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and, well, in actual fact, I can put an upstate on this and just put a graphic in here on another layer, and that'll just be a static graphic. Well, it could be actually an animated movie clip as well. But what I want to do is I'm going to turn this whole graphic into a movie clip and then work into that movie clip rather than extra layers on the timeline here. So I suppose there's lots of ways to doing things. I'm just making it simple. So how do I do that? Well, I convert this side into a button. Okay, so I'm just going to control click and then go convert to symbol. This time I'm not going to have a button. I'm going to go to a movie clip, and I'm going to name this MC movie clip, and I'm going to call it animate because I want to put an animation in there. And it's just centered here. I'm just going to go OK. So this just sits here on the overstate, and there's nothing happening yet. To get into its timeline, being a movie clip timeline, by the way, you can see here's our library of symbols appearing. I'm just going to double click on this one, and I'm going to basically just call this one base art. Could be really whatever name you want. And I'm going to come through here to about, say, frame 40. That'll do. Okay. And I'm going to control click on this. And I'm going to come up here and insert keyframe. No, I'm just going to insert frame. I just want this to be visible for 40 frames. Okay. So I've got that, and what I'm going to do the next one is I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call this, just call this ball. Let's hit the return key. Just take it back to the beginning here. So here's two layers, but this is all contained within the movie clip symbol. We haven't got the ball in here. So let's go and get the ball in here. So what I want to do is I'm just going to come up to, let's see, just insert a new symbol, or actually what I need to do is basically get my graphic in here. So it's just under, if you want to bring it in from and locate it. So just, actually we're not inserting the new symbol, we're just going to go insert for the graphics. Just make sure I'm animate, come down here, and I'm not going to browse and bridge, just want to import it. Okay, do I want to import it to the stage? I could do, but I'm going to go import to the library. So just import, better go and find that graphic if I remember where it's gone, and great. Just down here, there's a ball graphic, which is the one I want, so I'm just going to go open. And there it is. There's my ball graphic. If I click on that, there's the ball. Well, there's one more symbol we want, because this is really not going to work the way I want, because I need the parameters of a symbol holding it together. Just want it to be a sort of a static symbol, but nonetheless, I want that as a graphic. So, how do I do that? Well, what you can do is just over here with the graphic. By the way, you can update and go back to Photoshop and change things. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this, actually I'll bring it from here, right onto my timeline like so. And just bring that in there. Here it is occupying it. I think it's a little bit big. Nonetheless, I've got my graphic here, and just a nice easy way of working with this, I'm just going to control click. I just want to keep everything consistent. So just control clicking here, and if we come down here, we've got convert to symbol. Okay. Now there's things like you can generate animation sprite sheets, all sorts of things, and then for those of you using Edge Animate, you would have been familiar with those. But nonetheless, I'm just keeping a nice simple way of working, very much like Flash, convert to symbol, and you guessed it, we want a graphic. So a graphic is just GR, and I'm going to call this ball. Just because it's just a much better way of working, gives you the finesse, and it doesn't give you the limitations that if you don't have a symbol to work with, especially if you want to use it multiple times. Okay, so I'm just going to go OK. Here it is on the start time frame here, and what you might want to do is simply I'm clicking on the scale, and I'm just going to drag that down to the size that I want it. I think it's actually better at the size than the other one I had. Now what you want to be careful is, seeing we're making a button, if you put it over this other side, this is going to be part of the button as well. So I want to keep it out of that other button scope. Okay, so here it is, maybe just a tiny bit bigger. Oops, that's great, perfect. Let's bring it in here. Got my button, and here it is. It's its graphic area here that I can now animate. Okay. So we've got the file here. I'm just going back to my pointer tool. I'm just going to save it now. Just Command S or file save. Just make sure we do that like any other program. And what I want to do is, if I control click on this, you can actually create a motion tween. And essentially, with the motion tweens, if I were to just drag like so, should, actually I'll just check that again. If I move it out to somewhere and drag it down, hold the shift key, you see it makes a motion tween here that you can actually even bend and change. Okay, so this is probably a later way of working. So if I was just to animate this, I just want to show you how that animates. There you go. So that might be a really interesting button that I'm going to put together, but I also want to show you the Classic Tween. So I'm just going to undo that. I'm going to click right to the edge, and I need to, for that, add a keyframe. So control click on this end stage, just make sure that, do it again. And then you can just come down and insert keyframe. Okay, insert keyframe, and I'll just go position, and I'm going to now just drag it. Actually, no, I won't. I'm just going to leave it at the top here. Now, what happened here is that I've actually done this a little bit wrong, because I still had the motion tween because of the color there. So I'm just going to go edit until that disappears. Go back a couple. Now there you go, it's back to it without any of the motion tween. So if it's colored there, just be careful that if you want to do just the Classic Tween that I've just put together. So I'm going to come and do that again. So here's the start point. What I want to do is I want to create another keyframe here, control click, insert keyframe, and now you see that it's fine. It's basically hasn't moved, there's no animation. But what I want to do in the middle to show you the Classic Tween is if I control click and you can see Classic Tween. And we've got this line in the middle. Strange enough, just on the 20, I'm in the right place here. So I'm just going to go Control click, and I'm going to just go insert a keyframe. And this keyframe, see how it's breaking it? Now I'm just going to click, hold the Shift key and just drag it down to the bottom. And as you see, we've got the animation right to exact starting point and finishing point. That's sort of why I wanted to sort of use the Classic. Now we've got this graphic here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on my file here. I'm going to come back and now go from my buttons into my properties. This is where we can start playing with things like the ease. So I'm going to ease it in. I'll make it 100% ease in. I might even make it ease out as well. But what I have to do is go and click on the out here if I want to do it on this one. And well, actually no, I can't, because it's actually right at the end there. Okay, so I've just got my ease in. Okay, just to make sure that that's still clicked on the keyframe there. Okay, and what I want to do, yes, that's right. Just wanted to give it a clockwise this time, just to see how that's going to look. Okay, and it should just spin around. Great. And it's having an ease in graphic as well. So that's basically everything built, except for the action script now, and just outputting it into its format. So what I'm going to do is I'm just, oh, by the way, you can see how the stages, we've sort of gone 3 deep. Well, actually 4 deep in a way, if you want to include the graphic that's inside the button state or inside the movie clip state. So just come back to the library, graphic, movie clip, and button being the main stages. This is just simply just a bitmap file. So let's go all the way back to our scene. We just want to finish this little puppy off. So I'm just going to save it now, and I'm going to come through and just create a actions layer. So just click on that and just type in, oops, actions. That's the one. And this is where we can add our actions. So a little bit before, like I mentioned, you can actually access the actions from here. But what I'm going to do with this file here is I'm going to just bring up the actions from this panel. Now, if I click on this, remember one other thing we did, I better go back to the pointer tool here. Okay, if I go back to my properties now, which is where I want to go, remember how we named our instance. Now that's really, really important. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, that's selected, by the way, and well, I don't think I've got my actions there. I'll just make sure I've got the right thing. I'll just return again. Great, actions, and I'm just going to go and bring up my actions. So wherever you want to bring up actions and actions. Now to activate the actions, you need to click over to the code snippets, which is what we're going to do. If I click there, it's going to come up with the different forms of the actions we want. Basically the action script, the WebGL down the bottom, but we want the HTML5 canvas. Now another thing what you're going to have to do is, if I just close that just for a minute, is with this up, you need to make sure you've selected your instant on stage. So I'm just going to go and click it like so, and see button 1, that's what's selected. So you need to make sure you've got that before you go through and access your code, because it doesn't know what you're going to do. We want to make it easy on ourselves, and we're just going to call it with a this statement, essentially. So just come down here. Let's see, I'm just going to go straight to the actions. Of course, you've got a lot that you can load and things to play with, etc. I'm just going to go straight to actions here, go to web page. So I'm just going to double click, and basically here's the code already written for you. Basically this, button 1, blah, 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 go to, this time, Adobe site. I'm going to just take it back to my site, .co.nz, and it's got blank. I'm going to change it this time just to self. Okay, so really that's all we need to do. So I'm just going to go File and just make sure that's saved. Just going to close this file, close that, and you see we've got an A for actions at the moment. Now we need to publish. We've got publish settings here. You can also come down here and you can activate your publish settings from here as well. But what I'm going to do is I'll click on this one, publish settings, not published yet, we need to get our settings right. And just my ball here, so I need to make sure that I'm saving that to the right space. I'm just leaving on the standard here. I'm just going to go through to make responsive. I want it to include that preloader. Well, don't really need it, but if you do want to include the preloader, you can basically browse to what you've got or use the standard one, default. So maybe I just will use that. You might not see it come up in this instance, but anyway, I think that's almost it. So we've got JavaScript, just working with the basic file here. I better just click to make sure I'm putting it into the right folder. So I just come down here, I think it was in this one, and into this too. That's where I want to load all my files, so make sure you do select that. So let's go save, and once you're ready to go, all you need to do is basically go and publish it with this publish button. Just one little quick look just to see everything's okay there. I don't really want to touch anything, other things except for the background. I'm just going to click on this and I just want to make this white. Okay, so that's probably the only thing there. And I'm not using any web fonts, but you can do things like that as well, quite simply. So I think I'm ready to go. I'm going to go publish, and it's going to go through and just publish this file. And I just go OK now, it's still closed. I do get this warning coming up, but it seems to work fine. And I'm just going to go back to my timeline here, and actually I'll just minimize it, make sure it's saved. Let's minimize it here, and let's go and have a look at this too, see what we got. Okay, so here's the graphics that have come up. Let's go and test it now. Here's my ball and my preloader, because I asked for that preloader. I didn't load my own, but I'll click on the HTML page here and see what we're getting. Oops, I'll just bring it up to a larger size. Okay, so there's my graphic. It's working fine, and basically it's loading into the website to fit the same space. So if I just go back here, it's just replacing. Now there was one thing that I didn't do. You see what's happening there? It's not centering the stage. Well, if that's not quite right, let's just come back to our file again. Now there's one thing that I didn't do. You probably saw that as going through. So if I go back to my publish settings, this time I'm going to this one. I come back to just my basics. Let's see, make responsive. Oh, what's this? Center on the stage. Okay, so let's center it on the stage. Both horizontal, vertical. Yeah, I just want it to be both. And I'm just going to go basically publish, to publish that again. I'm just going to go OK. I'll minimize that down here. Let's just try it once more. And here we are. It's centered in the stage. I go and click on it. And voila, it's working great. Of course, one other thing that we could do, if I come back here, you can make any other symbols or animations and put them on the timeline being a movie clip, because a movie clip will contain a whole animation even in that one frame, provided it's a movie clip. So there could be other things and other buttons on the screen, but this is just a simple example to show how easy it is to put together for a Canvas HTML5. So thanks for watching.